It is Tuesday as we return to work. All of our guests today are sponsored by Parker Marine. Make your boating experience the best it can be. For more info, visit parkermarine.ca. As we bring in Elliotte Friedman from Hockey Night in Canada, Rogers Sportsnet, and the 31 Thoughts podcast. Or is it 32 Thoughts? Where are we with that, Elliotte, as we welcome you in?
You know what? Officially, Don, we're still waiting for the new branding, so it will be 32 Thoughts. But the new logo, I haven't seen it yet. And of course, I'm such a control freak. I have to approve everything.
You're like Taylor then.
We look forward to that. Hey, Elliotte, where do you stand? And I'm going to throw a curveball at you, a fastball at you, well, one or the other. Where do you stand on wearing jeans at a wedding, which I did on Saturday? It was Ryan Henderson's wedding, and I've received a lot of flack for it. Jeans at a wedding.
Okay, well, first of all, were they good, high-quality jeans?
No.
I would, in my opinion, yes.
Okay.
There's no blazer.
Rick, in your opinion?
50-50.
That's a no. How did they look on it? Did you look good?
I thought so. Not everybody did. My wife thought I looked okay.
Okay. That's important.
It was me, so I can only
your wife
look so
good. Your wife is the biggest vote. Like, nobody
there
else
you go.
matters. If
there you
your
go.
wife says you look okay, then, yeah, I got to tell you, I think it's okay as long as the jeans look good and you look clean and crisp.
Yes.
So if you look like you can wear jeans and look stylish, and if you look stylish, I say it's acceptable. If you look like a schlub, that's a game misconduct.
Did you say slug or what did
Schlub?
Oh, okay. Schlub.
Yeah.
Schlub. S-C-H-L-U-B.
I thought you said slug.
Yeah. Well.
Slug could work too, Rick.
It's open to opinion. Hey, Alex, we had Travis Green on, so he signs the multi-year, 2-year extension back in May. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Garland, Dickinson. What should we expect from the Canucks this season in a Pacific Division that not everybody feels is all that strong?
Well, I think it's the weakest division in the league, top to bottom. Now, that's on paper right now. And, things can change. I remember, last year I think there was a division I thought would be really weak, really strong, and it turned out to be kind of weak. So these things can change. But look, like to me, the one obvious is Vegas. I think Vegas is the class of the Pacific. And then after that, I'm willing to be convinced. I think the Canucks are deeper, especially up front. I like their versatility up front. I'm curious to see about how the blue line. I love Garland. I think he's a great pickup for you guys. I'm curious to see about the blue line. I'm curious to see, this is Demko's run now, and it's the first time he's really going to be the unquestioned guy, and I think he's a great goalie, but I want to see it. I think Ekman-Larsson is going to be huge. Can they find a way to get him back to his game? Is he going to be rejuvenated in a new place? But obviously you got to have Pettersson and Hughes sign because they're an important part of your team. But I don't see any reason why the Canucks can't be a playoff team. But I look at a lot of teams in that Pacific Division, and I see strengths and I see weaknesses, and the Canucks are no different.
Yeah, and I asked you what you expect from the Canucks. You mentioned the name there. What do you expect from Oliver Ekman-Larsson? A lot of, I'll say criticism surrounding him during his final years in Arizona. What should we expect from him?
Well, Don, the number one thing I think is that he got too comfortable, right? In our business, we switch jobs from time to time. And sometimes it's our choice, and sometimes it's not. And I know that there have been times in my career, and I think the biggest one was when I went from the Score to CBC, I'd gotten too comfortable. I needed to be kicked out of my comfort zone. I needed to prove myself again. And there were some people at CBC who kind of the Score is not the big leagues. You're in the big leagues now. What can you show us? And, so I kind of understand a little bit what Ekman-Larsson is going through. People are going to say, well, that was Arizona and there was not this scrutiny and you could go out and hide in public. Well, those days are over. You can't do that in Vancouver, and your play is going to be picked apart. And I thought it was a good thing for me, Don, to be challenged. And I think if Ekman-Larsson embraces that and says that this is a chance to prove himself, to regain that hunger, And the one and I guess it's two things, but the two things I think are big here are the Sedins. I think they played a big role in this. I think they played a big role with him, and I think that they are going to prepare him for what it takes. And now it's on EkmanLarsson's shoulders to step up and accept the challenge, because it will be a challenge.
Elliotte, let's talk about Pettersson and Hughes. They're not done. There was not much talks in August. Very quiet. They went a long time without talking. It's going to pick up this week, I'm told, as you are as well. But what's your gut saying about Pettersson and Hughes?
Well, I think the thing is, like, now, deadlines spur action. And I don't think that there's real deadlines yet. I think the deadlines come with the opening of training camp, which is still a couple weeks away. Like, I think things pick up after Labor Day. I think it's only natural. Everybody kind of gets serious about their lives and what they're about to do. But I think the real deadline is training camp. But I think, I think the Kotkaniemi offer sheet has changed it a little bit. I think people are looking at what he got and they're comparing that to it. And I think they're also looking at, kind of who signs first. What happens with Kaprizov? What happens with Brady Tkachuk? And how do we compare our numbers to all of those guys? I think, the Hughes deal, I think they are trying for some term there. The Pettersson deal, I don't know if I don't think it's going to be possible to do term there, but I think that all these guys, Pettersson, Kaprizov, and Tkachuk, are kind of looking at each other and saying who's going to do it first and how's that going to affect the other guys. And, I do think the Kotkaniemi thing a little bit has made it a little tougher on some of these teams, because even though it's an offer sheet and not a true comparable, it's still a player who doesn't have a ton of points who's now making 6.1. So all of that plays a role into it.
Elliotte, I was told Kaprizov in Minnesota, that could be a comparable for Mr. Pettersson. You've heard the same things. Is he close to signing in Minnesota, as reports indicate? 5, maybe possibly as high as $10 million a year?
I think you should not be surprised if the number comes in between 9 and 10. I don't think anybody should be surprised if that's the case. He's got. Well, you know what? He's a cornerstone player.
But Elliotte, he's played 50 games. I mean, if he gets between 9 and 10 on 5.
I think. You know what? I got to tell you something, Rick. Like, this is just my opinion, but I think if you have a guy who you believe is going to be that good, you sign him, and you sign him for as long as you can.
Yeah.
Like you look at Connor McDavid's deal. Like, as far as I'm concerned, he's worth every penny of that deal, and Edmonton is fortunate that he took that deal. I even look at Ovechkin's last year, the 13-year deal or whatever it was for $124 million or whatever it was.
Right.
Like, he was worth every penny of that deal. If I have a player I think is a franchise cornerstone, I am signing them for as long as I can, because the number never goes down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's what the Canucks have, 2 franchise players, and it's going to cost them a ton of money.
Hey, Elliotte, NHL.
Yeah, those are the guys you pay for.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Elliotte, first time we've talked to you in a long time. NHL, as you know, heading back to the Olympics. Why were all the sides involved able to play nice this time around?
Well, I don't think it was like I think the players, Don, forced this. Like, don't underestimate how much the players' will was what carried the day here. I don't think the NHL is crazy about this. They basically admitted it before the Stanley Cup final. I don't even think the Players Association and some agents are crazy about it. But I think the players said, nope, you made us a deal, and we demand that you live up to it. And the NHL said, that's true. We did make you a deal, and we will live up to it as best we can. And, there's still a couple mechanisms that this can change. And, depending on what you read or believe out there, it sounds like it could get worse before it gets better. And, there was an article in the New York Times, too, just after the Tokyo Games, that said compared to what's going to be allowed in Beijing in terms of movement, Tokyo's going to be a party. And so, I think there's a lot of people looking at it. They're still unsure if it's going to happen, but do not underestimate how much this means for the players and how badly they want to come.
Elliotte, thanks so much. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks. Good to have you back.
All right, guys. Have a great week.